Greetings to everybody down at Pennant Hills Toyota and Mitsubishi. I hope you guys are doing well. Look, I can only imagine what you're being confronted with on a daily basis with all the hoo-ha that's happening in our society right now. I mean, we're only on the fringe of it up here, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing you. Long story short, I had a conversation with Josh, and he articulated some concerns that we're all having about this, and obviously in the best traditions of coaching and being as good a partner as I can be to you all, I've come up with a document which I'm hoping by now you've probably seen. And I thought it might be a good idea to do a quick video because when you read a document, it's pretty one-dimensional. It's a bit like emailing someone instead of speaking to them. I'd like to sort of maybe explain some of the strategies or the thoughts behind it, just so we can be in total harmony with each other. Because we've all got our different styles, and no one's telling you to be anybody other than who you are. That's why you're doing so well. But we need to be unified in, like I said in the document, in our behaviour. So here's the document. What I thought the easiest thing to do is I might just sort of read through it, and please don't hesitate, should there be any questions or concerns, go through Josh and Matt and the rest of the team, the rest of the managers, but certainly don't hesitate to contact me if you'd like to discuss any aspect of this. So I've called it, I'm sorry, it's company policy with a little motif of the cop there, which we can't be seen to be. And I might just read through it, that might be the simplest thing. Look, when a customer hears about company policy anyway, it's said, it reduces their options. That's what company policies do. They take it personally as a result. Company policy, by definition, is rarely flexible. It's saying we're doing it my way, not your way, if you think about it. It takes away individuality of personality, but it also takes away individuality of circumstances. See, when people hear it's company policy, they think, well, hang on a minute, that's a blanket issue. That doesn't cover what's going on with me. And that's where problems can occur. So what we need to do is we need to address that in a way that doesn't offend. And the bottom line is you may as well say, if you're going to say it's company policy, you may as well say, so we have a policy for people like you. And of course that's never going to end well. And so what we need to do is we need to exercise a little bit of diplomacy. So what I've got are a few facts, tips and rules in this one. So the first one is a fact. Now the coronavirus has divided our country. That's not news. It's also divided our families. I mean, some of the things I've seen up here are unbelievable. Family against family. Vaccination mandates have made it worse. And there's a lot of question about the legality of that. That remains to be seen. Whilst I have a bit of a background in that sort of thing, not at that level. So it's going to be interesting to see how things go at a Supreme Court level and, you know, workplace arbitration, all that sort of stuff. That's beyond my scope. But what we're going to do is get through it in the meantime. Okay, here's another fact. Politics, religion and even sport can divide you from your guest without careful diplomacy and tact. I remember losing a client when I tried to get a training partner once because we followed different codes of football. He bagged mine, I reciprocated, and that was the end of that. So, you know, can't do it. Even though coronavirus is a medical issue, it doesn't fit into those categories. It has become ultra-political, there's no question. And tensions are running high. Here's a tip, never get into politics, ever. Just don't do it. And religion too, for that matter. There is only one thing worse than you arguing with your guest, and that's if you win that argument. Because what happens is ego and bias kicks in, and they're going to beat you every time. They'll go somewhere else with some people that agree with them. It's not that they'll agree with them, they're just more diplomatic than us. We cannot give the impression of being cops, and it's not your job. And I feel sorry that it's become part of what you need to do. But there's good cops and bad cops. Look, another tip, guest centricity. We're all familiar with it. It's become Toyota's hallmark as well as their benchmark. We need to comply with the law and the policies of our brands without actually compromising our focus on hospitality, service and integrity. This is where diplomacy plays a part. I think that's pretty straightforward. Another fact, depending on the bias or the belief of your guest, they will either applaud our policies or they will protest them. This is nothing new. Our industry has always suffered from being stereotyped. All you've got to do is Google car salesman and hit images instead of websites. You'll see what I mean. Another tip, avoid being seen as stereotypical 3 ways. Number 1, by not being predictable. If you're going to say things that they've heard before, all their mind is telling them is here we go again. Number 2, not using slang, jargon, cliche, which is probably what I meant before, or acronyms. And number 3, follow the rules that offer transparency, uniformity and professionalism. Now, if in your role you're responsible for creating that first impression of our culture, and policies are part of our culture, and our brands follow these guidelines. There's only really two. And they're accompanied by a few notes and a few tips, and a couple of word tracks too. Number one, in the big gigantic arrow there, at initial contact, this is the time to declare the prevailing policy on how we handle both vaccinated and unvaccinated guests. Make it clear that we value every guest. See, the way this is worded, you can you guys are very creative, you can think of the word tracks that you would say, but I've got a couple to offer you anyway. Here at Altos, we value every guest, and we respect every guest's chosen vaccination status. I think that's a good way to put it. We have protocols that respect our guests while keeping our company legal and compliant and responsible during these challenging times. And nobody's going to deny that the times are challenging. Invite any questions or concerns from your guest that they may have at this point, prior to moving into your hardcore consultation phase. So here's a couple of points. We are professionals. I've got that written in bold because it's true. And we're used to being creative with our words and convincing in our beliefs. We're used to dealing with bias and being blamed for issues that aren't our fault. How many times have they blamed you when they're not happy with the trade-in? If we allow our liaisons to become confrontations, we know we can't win. So consider the factors in the box above as points there, and here's where it leads into a word track for you. Look, it demonstrates transparency and clarity. Here's the suggested word track. Good morning, folks. Welcome to our dealership, and thank you for coming. Look, my name's Steve, and it would be my pleasure to assist you at this point. Before we discuss the purpose of your visit, that's very important. Before we discuss the purpose of your visit, I need to offer you some clarity. See, you're offering them. You're not expecting anything from them. I need to offer you some clarity and some options. People love options. That's the opposite of company policy. I need to offer you some clarity and some options for you, on how we here at Pennant Hills Toyota Mitsubishi are required to manage our time together. Is that okay with you? Never make a commitment without one. If at this point you encounter anything, it'll be minor. And it's going to come from the people who are unvaccinated. That's fair to say. The people who are vaccinated are going to think you're doing the right thing too. It's only the people who are not vaccinated. Whether they're right or wrong, it doesn't matter. They're going to have a different opinion, maybe. And it doesn't matter, as I said. Okay, another point on that. The above word track, what I just said in other words, emphasises that the guest is our priority and that we're acting both under orders but also responsibly, and that our policy is designed to offer options. By asking, is that okay with you? I'm just reinforcing what I said. It's about gaining commitment. Never proceed anywhere without that. Another point, the last point, is always dispense information in small doses to avoid misunderstanding. The pacing of what we say is so critical because the meaning gets into the emotional part of the brain, and that's the part of the brain that sees value. Okay, the second procedural option here is the post-initial contact phase. So at this point, you're probably going to have learned the vaccination status of your guest. Now, depending on their bias, this knowledge may be accompanied by some sort of anger, attitude, or even anguish. Now, this will most likely come from the unvaccinated, as I said. Be quick to assure them that we do not judge anyone's choice. Our executives have designed protocols and procedures that cater for all our guests. Our priority is the comfort of our guests, and that we simply want to ensure that they can make an informed decision in an environment that suits them. I hesitate to say in a safe environment because I believe that's kind of the marketing campaign that's being used, and it's becoming, people are saying stay safe instead of g'day, but if you feel that that's appropriate, if you think safety is on their mind, well then it doesn't hurt to use those words. A couple of points: leave judgment out completely. Whether you agree or disagree with anything you experience from your guest, if you become emotionally invested, you are going to diminish your opportunity to provide a solution. And guess what you do for a living? You provide solutions. Should you encounter any hostility at all, empathy is the card you play. Now remember, empathy is not sympathy. You don't have to, matter of fact, it's bad to feel sympathy in a situation like this with strangers because they won't see it as genuine. But empathy is different. Remember that empathy is not capitulation. For instance, I can see your point, Steve. Isn't saying that Steve's right and you're wrong. It just gives Steve nothing to oppose. Like judo. Okay, the next point is focus on the solution. Whatever you encounter, try this and do it with style, be calm and confident. Steve, that won't present us with any problems at all. Many of our customers feel the same way. So what we've done is, and then you need to know clearly what we've done. I haven't put that in here because I'm not privy to what your internal policies, the way they're worded and how strict they are. So make sure you know what the policies are, but spin it in a way that sounds like we're responsible, we're proactive, and we're very mindful of the fact that you need to be taken care of. Now, the bottom line to all this part is that you've got to remember that adversity is a great time to build character. Nothing happens special that is easy. You didn't see too much comfort in that grand final that was played the other day. Okay, so your guests are used to the turmoil that coronavirus has created. We have been part of this now for 2 years. Nothing is new. Everybody's pissed off for different reasons. The vaxxers are blaming the unvaxxed are blaming the government say, I don't know. It's just a mess. So look, a calm, considered approach, which is demonstrated transparently. Notice how I said all that without telling you how I feel? That's the key. You've got to stay neutral, absolutely neutral. From the outset is precisely what leaders do. In other words, being transparent from the outset is leading. As agents for our brands and our company, you are leading our guests to an ownership experience that you personally may very well be the most memorable component of. That could be the story they tell. And when there's adversity happening, whether it's economic or political or medical or whatever it is, that's your opportunity to shine if you're prepared. And I stress to you as I wrap this up, being prepared is what it's all about. Don't forget too that your management team have your best interests at heart and they're handy. And I think the sooner you introduce your guests to authority figures, the sooner that you are not the face of failure if failure is what's coming. Just finally, I want to give you a word on morale. As I've said to you, and you remember me saying this, morale is something you can't measure on a spreadsheet. Joshua and Matt cannot ring Deloitte and say, hey, can you give me the morale figures, because there's no spreadsheet, but there's evidence of it in all your spreadsheets. Your teammates, treat them as internal guests. That way, and the way we interact and treat each other does contribute to our culture. We don't need to be united in our opinions, but we do need to be united in our behaviour. That's culture. And we can be as eclectic and different from each other as possible. Matter of fact, it's a good thing. But the way we behave needs to be united. We have a lot in common. We do. You, me, your teammates, your bosses, your customers, we all have a lot in common. You know what we've got in common? We're trying to get through life and we're trying to do the best thing for our families. And this is better achieved for you when what you do, you handle with dignity and respect, and you treat other people with respect. So the best way to do that is to be flexible, because when you're flexible, it means you won't snap. Only people and things that are not flexible snap, and you don't want that because you can't provide a solution. These times will define you. That's the final message I have on this document. You don't get defined by things that are easy. You get defined by the way you handle difficult things, because difficult things don't test your personality. They test your character. So until we see each other again, which I'm hoping will be pretty soon now, you guys take care, and thank you for listening. And I wish you every success and hope you have a fantastic October. I can't believe I said October. The year is just flying. Take care, everybody, and don't forget to give us a buzz or an email if you need any help at all. Until we see each other, take care. Thank you.